Hello everyone, happy Thursday to all of you. This is Renu and Kamal. Well, Auntie Renu. I've become Auntie Renu at 7 o'clock in the evening, and Kamal on Prem Connection. Our favorite time again on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. So if you don't have a date, don't worry about it, guys. You have a date with the two aunties, double the advice. And of course, we have our favorite RJ with us, Miss Era. So thank you, Miss Era, always for being here for all our shows. So as you well know, we just started Prem Connection a few weeks ago. And this is going to be a show where you create your own story. Everybody has a story. Who doesn't have a story, right? We all have a story, whether it's about falling in love or falling out of love. We have horror stories to tell. We have beautiful stories to tell. But whatever it is, it's a life experience that you're going to learn from. And that's exactly what Prem Connection is. It's a program. And in addition to that, it is going to be a private matrimonial matchmaking service. That's right, guys. Enough of the swiping left, right, upar, niche, aage, piche, pata nahi kya log kya karte hai. We are going to bring you the two aunties, double the advice, and we're going to help you find your match. So if you haven't found your life partner, don't worry. That's what we're here for. And that will be launched in 4 weeks. We have the most amazing site coming out. We have our YouTube channel. I'm sure you've already met our two other old aunties that are helping us promote our Prem Connection, which is Bibi Karnal Kaur and Bibi Basanti. And now, of course, Forja Singh, their brother, is even joined in. But on that note, you'll find our YouTube channel, which is called Prem Connection. Our website will be out, and we're going to give you nothing but entertainment around love and relationships. Today, we have a very exciting show ahead that we're going to talk about arranged marriages. It used to be a very popular word when I was growing up, and now if you say arranged marriages in front of any bacha, they run out of the door. But we're going to talk about that and unrealistic expectations. But before we do that, I need to invite my other auntie, my partner in crime. Hi, come on, auntie. How are you?
Hi, Renu. How are you? Welcome, listeners, to another exciting Prem Connection show. So,
as you can clearly tell from the two aunties, I'm the crazy auntie. I'm the one that just goes off beat completely. And Kamal is the shant, sensible auntie. And that's why.
It's a persona. It's a persona, okay?
And believe it or not,
my family, they will tell you. So this is...
Kamal, we should actually, a lot of people have been asking me that why, why did you start Prem Connection? Where did Prem Connection come from? Why did you start it? You already are doing full-time work with children. You're going from children to something else. And they want to know how you and I go back together. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. We go back about 47 years. Can you believe that?
Yeah, but we're not going to talk about how we first met.
There's only one.
And this is going to be an interesting story of how this connection happened, this Prem connection.
Yeah. 47 years. That's right.
Right. And so during COVID, we were talking about our schools, but then we started talking about other things that we've always talked about. And this was, let's do something like Prem Connection. And this young lady over here, the other auntie, just said to me, let's meet for lunch. And that's where we started deciding. And we came up with names, and then the rest is history. And now we are putting heart and soul into this Prem Connection. So we are thoroughly enjoying this. I can't tell you how much fun it is.
And, a lot of people have been asking, what experience do you have with matchmaking? So a little history on that. I go back, when I was a single mom and I was going through a divorce, nobody wanted to know single moms, especially the young, pretty looking moms with the chote bache. Nobody wanted to invite us. So I thought, how do I get myself a network? I started a divorce club in the Bay Area that turned out to become very popular. And the next thing I was doing every evening is hooking people up. And I turned that into a little bit of Gujubai blood in me. I turned it into a profitable business called The Reservoirs. And I did 200 matches at that time in 4 years. And then along came the internet and all this internet dating. And I said, okay, time to make an exit. So I did. But in the meantime, I did it that way. Kamal has been doing matchmaking for years. She's one of those aunties that never goes to a party and then leaves always getting information in her pocket.
My little black book, writing everybody's names and addresses. No, I've always had a passion to introduce people, and hopefully they find a suitable partner. And so from there, I've been, I think in my 30, 40 years, I've introduced probably another 100 couples. So between the two of us, we've done about 300 couples, and we feel pretty good about it. And
Like you both have been more successful than the infamous Seema auntie, you know?
Yeah, maybe. I enjoyed that show actually, and that's what then got my little brain ticking. Ira, is I was sitting there watching the show, and I'm like, okay, this auntie is doing all of this stuff, and I said, we need to bring this together. And I'll tell you, it was one of the best businesses I've ever done, because I really never thought about it as a business. I used to end up just making lots of friends and talking to people, because when you're looking for someone or when you're leaving a relationship, either or, it's a very emotional time. When you're making a decision or you're leaving somebody to find someone else, I mean, it's just intense.
But
So
tell
I
me
used to
this
do
thing,
therapy.
don't you also fear that thing, what if something goes wrong? What if it doesn't work? They'll come back to me, trying to hold my neck. Ki tumne milaya tha, why didn't you see? Why didn't it work out?
So, Ira, that's why private matchmaking is very different, because you provide the realistic expectations of somebody. Now, when you meet people on these dating apps and you have horror stories to tell, it's the computer that matched you. And I can never understand how a computer can do that. But what I used to do is tell people, I'm only going to facilitate.
Right.
You both.
When you do that, I think people don't have that expectation. And also upfront, you have to tell people, look, I'm only introducing. There is no guarantees that this is going to lead to a marriage.
Right.
And then we'll help you. Let's see, first you even take the first step of liking a person. And if you don't like the person, it's all off. And then
I ask you this question because informally India mein there are a lot of aunties who try to match people and ki, Arey, this boy will be good for that girl. But sometimes you've also seen ki, do you know somebody for this guy or for this girl? And there have been people who said ki nahi kuch kharab ho gaya, kuch gadbad ho gayi, to hamara gala pakdenge aake. So that's why I was asking ki, is that also a factor?
No, that's an old school.
Yeah.
That's an old
I think that's old school.
Now,
okay.
Yeah. Now people are very open and they don't blame you for if something doesn't work out. And I have so many success stories, my
Absolutely.
own, 30 plus years. And there's so many people that I've introduced that have lasted for over 30 years and they're still married. So.
That's
and
awesome.
we have had so many requests. It's wonderful. Actually, just before the show, as soon as I posted our show today, we got a request from India. Somebody has a sister out here, so we're very excited. So on that note, we have another interesting topic. We brought 2 weeks ago when we started Prem Connection, we brought a couple that was interracial marriage.
Yes.
Last week, we talked about somebody that had lost a loved one and how he's learning to love again. And today, we're going to bring a friend of mine, a very successful young lady who is going to talk about arranged marriages and unrealistic expectations. So on that note, welcome Rashim Moga. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Red. I'm super excited to be here and congratulations on this new venture of yours.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And we've already had discussions about unrealistic expectations. So over to you, Kamal. I would love you to get to know Rashim. I know everything about her. I think you young ladies need to get to know her too.
So tell us a little bit about your story.
My story. Well, I moved to US about 15 years ago, and I moved because I wanted to escape an arranged marriage. So hence this topic and this conversation today. I come from a Rajput family, and we with a royal lineage, and in our community, especially in our family, women are expected to study very hard. They're supposed to be educated, but they're not supposed to have opinions of their own. And that was something that did not sit well with me. So I really wanted to have a life of my own, where my successes are mine and my failures are mine too. And that is why I actually decided to move to the US and build my life from scratch over here. So in a nutshell, that's my story. I then moved on to find somebody whom I absolutely love, my husband. I met him over here. He's not Indian, and built my family over here in the Bay Area.
So let me ask you a question, Rashim. You said you ran away from the arranged marriage. So was there already a suitor ready for you to get hooked up, or was it was it happening, or did you run away the night before the shadi?
It was actually
All this
it
excitement,
was,
right?
it was not right before the shadi. So that was the good part. The I mean, I had never met the guy. I actually, one fine day, my dad comes home and tells me that he has decided on a guy for me, and if the guy's family, um, meet me and they say yes, that's the end of it. And that's when I had been resisting marriage, and I had been fighting in my own way and let my parents know. But that's when I got really scared. I was like, oh my God, this shit is real and it's going to happen to me. So obviously, I put up a big fight. Obviously, I called my cousin, and um, she lived close to those people. And before how things travel. So before the next day morning, everybody was like, she's not willing, she's calling everybody, she's not somebody whom you want to marry because she's very vocal, she's very she's not moldable, she's not homely, and all that stuff, which actually
So,
worked in my favor.
well, you were really out of the box, huh?
I was really not an ideal bride, if would be bride, if you will. So that was the good thing that happened to me. That also bought me some time because I was already working at that time, and I actually worked with one of my sponsors in my company to get transferred to the US within those 6 months. So I had to act very fast, but yeah, that's how it happened. So no, it was not the night before, but it was that whole thing of not knowing whom I'm going to marry, or uh, being expected to just put the makeup on and sit in a big living room and expect to order people around. That whole vibe didn't jive with me.
So let me ask you, why is it that, I mean, it happens in many families, but you mentioned specifically with the Rajput families. So why do they educate their girls and spend so much time and money on this if that intent is not to be an entrepreneur or to go out and venture and be independent? What's the reasoning behind that?
I think it's more about you want your girls to be educated so that they are marriageable, right? And then it's up to the other family to decide whether this woman is going to work or not. And even if, like, some people decide that uh, you know the brides in their family, or the girls that they marry their sons to, daughter-in-laws, would work, but they will still not have opinion of their own.
Yeah.
And that was a part of me was also about not having that decision making power. That was the biggest piece for me. The uh, I had big dreams, and somebody just coming in and deciding that for me did not sit well with me. Renu, as you know, I run the EVA initiative now. I'm a business leader in the industry as well, and that whole idea of just you know standing up for something, and uh,
But
and doing.
don't you think it could have been possible? What if he could have been one of those people that could have allowed you to? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
So I've seen enough people in the community, right? The societal pressure is so huge, and I've seen my cousins, right? I don't have a brother of my own, but I have my cousins, and I've seen them. They might be different for their wives when they're not with their families, but when you are in that structure, they are mama's boys, and they are all about what others want to say, how you want to be perceived as a daughter-in-law. And
Mhm.
I didn't want to do that. I would have not been successful in that role.
Why do you think women tend to put so much pressure on themselves about, you know, arranged marriage, or just, is it, do you think the women put on this pressure, or is the society?
I think it's more of the society that puts the pressure, and then it comes down to the woman, because we're trying to make our families happy. I know when I was going through this struggle, um, my cousins and my younger sisters could not understand why I was not conforming to these rules that were built by society, why I was, a troublemaker in the family. Why was I the black sheep? Why couldn't I just agree to the things? Why couldn't I just fit into the mold?
How did it affect your relationship now with your family or your cousins or your parents? How did that affect?
So for the first few years, I was definitely the black sheep in the family. I mean, my mother totally supported me. 100% was there with me throughout. My dad
Did they
on the
come for your marriage here? When you got married, did they come?
So actually, we did meet the parents 6 months after my getting married. So I got married over here. My husband's family and my friends were obviously there. And then after 6 months, I and my husband flew down to India to meet my parents.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
but
so now everything's fine. And
both my parents are downstairs, so I'm hoping that my dad doesn't listen to this radio show.
So, we talked about, when we connected and you mentioned arranged marriages and unrealistic expectations. You said to me, Renu, I want to talk about that. What is it that you want to bring? I mean, you run this organization now. I know you empower a lot of women, and a lot of women are listening to our show and who relate to, what you have just said. What is unrealistic? Because now, for example, as a mother, you're still young, but as a mother, I started behaving like my own mother and telling my daughters that I'm going to help you choose your husband. And they both turned around and said, oh yeah, right, mom. But I started behaving like my own mom, although I didn't put that kind of pressure. What are the unrealistic expectations that we are facing today?
So I never got to that stage, but I know that many of my friends have been in that stage, right? It starts right um, when you start looking for a potential daughter-in-law, right? It all starts with fair, tall, homely. Like I would never check into any of those boxes. So, it starts right there. And then when the conversations happen, I mean, I've seen so many friends who studied computer science, but moved into, taking up careers like teaching because in people's mind, a teacher is a better occupation because she'll be back home by 4 o'clock and she can take care of the kids and the family.
Right.
Or unrealistic expectations around, whether you are going to take a job that requires a lot of travel or not, whether you are in a job role where you can take time off to take care of the kids. Essentially, I've seen when I was growing up, my mom practically was a single parent, managing three of us girls and taking care of everything, while my dad was busy with his practice. He's a doctor, and he was busy with his practice. But he was there for us, but pretty much during the week, it was all my mom doing everything. So those are the unrealistic expectations that I'm talking about, right? I have so many friends who are equal contributors in the family, but their husbands would come home and they would come home together, and then she would be expected to prepare dinner while the husband is waiting for the dinner.
Right.
And Renu and I probably didn't encounter these things because we grew up in the West. But for us also to understand these things are a little hard, that this happened to almost, you guys are a similar age group or maybe, a little bit younger, that this was still going on in India because our perception is that maybe things move forward. And so what do you think now, currently, how is it in India? Do you think they're still with the same thought, or are they now accepting a lot more and giving women the freedom?
I think where people have moved out of the joint family situation, right? There is still a little bit of equality. Like I have friends who have husbands who are contributing equally when it comes to, the household work or supporting them to take on, careers, high stress careers. But once they get into that family mold, you're still expected to behave in a certain way. You're still supposed to be that that daughter-in-law that will just keep quiet and listen to everything and not voice her opinion, for example.
The dark ages.
Yeah, and that thing that I think hasn't changed, and it's sad because I was thinking, I left the country 15 years ago, have been there, I would say just like 4 times, through 3 of them being business trips. Um, so I thought things would have changed, but they really haven't that much. What has changed is, though, the outlook of men has changed more than women. And men are becoming more supportive. The newer generation, at least, is becoming more.
That's good. That's wonderful.
Nice.
I
We
mean,
have only 3 minutes left to the end. It's a 30-minute show, and when you're having fun, time goes by so quickly.
right.
So,
It's amazing.
So to all the young girls out there and gentlemen out there who are listening to the
Yes.
show, who are not married and going to be venturing out to find a life partner, what is the one piece of advice you would tell them, Rashim?
Marry someone who really inspires you, with whom you are yourself and not somebody else. Because don't marry because you're lonely, because you can be lonely in a marriage too.
Oh, very well said. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And really quickly, you said you didn't marry somebody who's Indian. So I'm sure the audience wants to know, so who did you marry? We're the nosy Indians who have to know.
We're nosy. We're simply nosy. Okay.
So my husband is first generation Iranian, and his mom is from the Bay Area. So he's half Latino, half Iranian.
Okay, but Moga is your last name, right?
That's my last name. Yeah.
Moga is his last name. Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on our show, inspiring everybody, and hopefully, motivating everybody. And do give your quick website of your organization, because I know you empower women a lot. If you can quickly mention that.
So it's ewoglobal.com, EWOW global.com.
And absolutely, you can find Rashim on Facebook. You can easily find her. She's very empowered. She helps a lot of young ladies. So thank you again for being on our show. We really
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you. So Kamal, let me ask you, if you were to be born again and I were to be your mom and tell you that I have a match for you, what are your thoughts on that?
In this day and age, I probably would rebel against you. If it was 50 years ago, I would accept. So, which era do you want me to belong? So, I mean, I'm upfront. If you told me today, rebel. And I think we need to give our children the due process that they need to learn to find a partner themselves versus us picking. It's not our life, it's their life.
And I think that's what we tend to forget as parents, that they have to wake up every morning with that person, go to bed every day with that person. They have to make the decision. Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I can add to that. I think she said very well, but I think one more thing, sense of humor. I think sense of humor is very important. When you have that, makes your life much
And what I loved about what Rashim said was that you can be lonely even when you're married.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So if you hook up with the wrong person, you're going to be lonely. So don't think marriage is just going to automatically give you companionship.
Renu, I mean, you know my story. I met Pashi within 6 weeks. I got married, and I don't think there's anything more arranged than that. But I think the partner lets you be who you are. I think you succeed. But if you can have an arranged marriage and they are suffocating you, of course you're going to run.
Absolutely. How can I forget? I was there at your wedding. I was wearing the yellow sari that I remember it almost came down and I had to put pins everywhere on it. How can I forget?
Yeah,
How can I?
But I think I lucked out, and he lets me be who I want to be. And I think
exactly
for each one of us, first of all, we should be who we are. We shouldn't pretend and impress somebody, because once you do that, people are going to get over it, so you need to stay who you are.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for tuning in. We're wrapped up. Until next week, we'll see you. And thank you, Miss Ira. Thank you so much. Good night, Auntie Kamal.
Thank you.